Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today will be part 2 of my Wrath of the First Lantern crossover review, known as Reality Gone Wrong. It had dozens of DC's best talent creating the event, which all took place between 2013. In my part 1 video covering this event, the number 17 issues were included from the 4 titles involved, and for here it will be the number 18s. As for what was seen to begin with, the now self-liberated First Lantern, aka Volthoom, got to work on showcasing his mind-altering reality-warping powers, using them against Green Lantern Guy Gardner, Guardian of the Universe Ganthet, and White Lantern Kyle Rayner. Meanwhile, Red Lantern leader Atrocitus has gone to the planet Maltus in search of something called the Great Heart, and new Green Lantern and main Rise of the Third Army character Simon Baz has joined Hal Jordan and Thal Sinestro in the Dead Zone. Green Lantern number 18 kicks off in the recently mentioned Dead Zone, which is where we'll stay for most of this issue since Simon was meant to rescue Jordan and Sinestro from this place, but instead got sent here in the same fashion as those two did by Blackhand in the previous edition. These three next try to figure out what the hell is exactly supposed to happen now, with Jordan and Sinestro getting into the usual back and forth banter they like to do. Plus, I liked how Thal was slightly annoyed by Baz calling Hal a big deal as well after what other Green Lantern Badge told him during the Rise of the Third Army, including not to trust Sinestro, and as cool as I think he is, him disagreeing that Jordan ain't a big thing with all the times he's defeated the Yellow Lantern Corps leader, well, I wouldn't expect anything different. Also, I had no idea there was a Dead Zone TV series based on the Stephen King story. I thought there was just a movie with Christopher Walken, and I thought Simon mistook it for the Twilight Zone, and it seems so did Hal. Anyway, after Sinestro realizes his Green Lantern ring is still active, he attacks Simon for it, and because this time it's truly 100% his piece of jewelry, none of the constructs can hurt him. However, when he actually tries to kill Bazzy to get it back, the gun our newest Green Lantern stashed away in his costume during issue number 15 is used to shoot Thal. Good thing he didn't listen to Badge when it came to backup weapons. Speaking of Badge, alongside the Templar Guardians who were released from their Chamber of Shadow confinements by Simon, they all fight the highly deadly Blackhand now, saying they will rescue the hero stuck in his Black Lantern ring. Back to the Dead Zone, one-time popular Green Lantern Tomar Ray, who's been a denizen here a while and was brought fully into the story back in issue number 16, is informing Hal that him, Sinestro, and Simon aren't fully deceased yet, meaning until their will to live fully runs out, they're pretty much death-proof in this realm, also meaning Thal is able to get right back up after taking a bullet and is now holding a serious grudge. Tomar Ray then seems to be quite informative about First Lantern Volthoom, saying he came from a parallel timeline to watch the Guardians of the U witness this universe's inception, and was even the first to bathe in the emotional electromagnetic spectrum, but didn't want to share it, going on to kill millions for unsaid reason here, which warranted the Guardians to create the Manhunter robots in order to hunt him. I guess that's a neat way to tie them into things, but now that Volthoom is free again, reality as they know it is in danger. Also, I thought that Volthoom was already aware of the emotional electromagnetic spectrum and showed it to the Guardians. They didn't discover it together. I'm not sure about that though. Simon next is willing to give the Green Lantern ring he wears to Hal if it means getting back to the regular world, but his courageous words won't matter because Badge and the Templar Guardians appear to get a lock on Jordan trying to save him right as some duplicate GL ring pops out from I have no clue where, except Sinestro puts up a fight for it, and after a sneaky move using Hal's lover Carol Ferris as distraction, he snatches the ring which transports him to the Chamber of Shadows holding Simon hostage. Well, I wouldn't expect anything different. The situation for Hal ain't improving either since Thal and Bazzi did the old switch with Blackhand sending him to the dead zone. Apparently this isn't so bad though because Jordan thinks he can maybe use BH's Black Lantern ring, however he's gotta be truly deceased for that to happen, so a long cliff dive is looking rather tantalizing right about now. Green Lantern Corps number 18 brings in my second favorite GL, John Stewart, along with GL and G-Star Yira Fatality Sinril, who have been traveling together since midway through the Rise of the Third Army, searching for pieces of sentient Green Lantern planet Mogo, resulting in its rebirth. But no time for celebrating as Volthoom has found the couple, and with their emotional-filled backgrounds displayed in a great double-page spread, minus the weird-looking mouth areas, these two are perfect targets. The warped memories sure do flow next, too, as John's mother is seen having taken on a political career later in life, but she got assassinated mid-campaign, except in another version her son saved her life. And from the research I did, Johnny's mom has always been written as a community do-gooder. We then see some flashbacks to Stewart's days doing his architect work, plus his US Marine Corps time, which is when he got a Green Lantern ring. Originally, he was brought in to back up Hal Jordan after Guy Gardner got put out of commission after being hit by a car rescuing some civilian. How far both of them have come from those days, eh? Anyhow, a memory involving the planet Xanchi's demise now arrives, and I got into detail on John's part in this event during my Rise of the Third Army Part 2 video, but clearly you can see in the following different realm that it sure as hell wasn't a good outcome, with John taking his own life via a green bullet to the head, and in another reality, Fatality went true to her name, going Mortal Kombat on our Green Lantern here. Yes, I've been waiting to make an MK reference regarding her for a while. Johnny says not so fast to Miss Sinril though, using a final bit of willpower to skewer her beside him, allowing them to die together. Yeesh. Volthoom isn't even close to being done yet, with another memory of John's revealing he was offered to be an Alpha Green Lantern like the 5 that tried to execute him in this title's Volume 2, and if he accepted the role, it is shown that he would have been even more totalitarian after his freakish surgery to become Alpha GL Power Ranger, using the abilities to kill his closest Corps mates. A bit of truthful visions then happened with Johnny taking on the first Guardian of the Universe to go rogue in Krona, who took over the minds of his kin and 99% of the Green Lantern Corps in the War of the Green Lantern story. But what differs here is when using an Indigo Tribe ring to channel Black Lantern energy, ultimately leading into Living Planet Mogo's destruction at Stewart's hands. That really happened, and you'd know why if you checked out my Rise of the Third Army videos. Only this time, Kyle Rayner in Blue Lantern gear gets shot by him first. Then, in another reality twist, Rayner shoots John in the back before saving the day without having to sacrifice Mogo. That sight surely hurt the most to see, but if you thought that was the end for John, you'd be mistaken, because the first lantern isn't forgetting about the New 52 Volume 1 plot of this series, pertaining to Green Lantern Kurt Kalak nearly giving up core secrets to an enemy called the Keepers, forcing Stewart to kill him in a very tough choice. However, in this mind trip, the roles are reversed, with Kurt being the killer because Stewart is a snitch. Except after all that's done, a sight of what may have happened to Johnny if the Alpha Lanterns fully apprehended him for causing another Green Lantern's death is shown. A one-way trip to Owa's execution chamber where the Guardians eliminated him in vaporizing manner. Double yeesh. This total bombardment of crazy memories and realities has finally rendered Green Lantern number 3 here pretty defeated, so Volthumi holds him and Yira in slightly kinky manner, getting ready for his next stage. Green Lantern New Guardians number 18 focuses on Volthoom going after a trio of characters from this title, beginning with Star Sapphire Carol Ferris, and her warped reality being one where she became a fighter pilot alongside Hal Jordan, but they're not a couple at all with the way they speak to each other here. Actually, it ain't too far from what's real, and even fellow pilots know they're bound to wind up together eventually. Anyway, because Carol became a soldier instead of taking over her dad's company, Ferris Air, it was taken over by a rival group, Leviathan, and that caused Mr. Ferris to commit suicide. A bit off topic quick, I really like the art in this issue. The first Lantern next moves on to Orange Lantern leader Larfleeze, who, not surprisingly, is the only one thus far to completely reject him, even after being tempted with memories of his very long-lost family. Yet he always reverts back to his signature greedy ways. He is a billion-year-old creature that basically controls an entire core by himself. Lots of time to practice his avarice. Even a reality where the big bad of this event offers Larfy a Blue Lantern ring to try and make him nice works to no avail. Speaking of the Blues, Saint Walker, or Brody, the top Blue Lantern Corps member, is jumped to, but in his mind bend he's a Green Lantern instead, and returning to his homeworld of Estonia to reunite with his kids named Jat and Peesh, except he's immediately met by Guardian of the Universe Ganthet saying urgent business must be attended elsewhere. Only it's all a ruse so that the Third Army can attack this planet. If it weren't for Walker's new threads here, I would have been super confused whether this really happened or not. Doesn't really matter though, because Saint Walker decides to, for convenient reason, turn back to Estonia after briefly leaving with Ganthet just to find the TA ripping the planet apart. However, a lot more than a shred of hope is displayed when Brody sparks himself into becoming a Blue Lantern of hopefulness, and he uses his new ring to literally metamorph the vile creations of the Guardians back into their original versions, which even has Volthoom saying, "Whoa." Cutting back to Hal and Carol, she's presenting a new mission to take place in the Middle East, with Jordan undermining her every word, but halfway through an argument, the aircraft carrier ship they're on is attacked by freaking Atlantean forces that sent a huge battalion from the water, forcing Commando Carol to come out, also being backed up by Hal, and seeing these two fight with guns isn't something you see often. However, they won't do much good considering their central computers shut down right before the attack, meaning no real defense systems can be used. It seems Carol is a better Violet Lantern than she is a tactical leader, and that is proven next when she plans on pulling the classic near kamikaze move on flying a jet into the enemy's mothership, then ejecting at the last second. Except when this doesn't work out the way she wants, a star sapphire ring finds and saves her life, seriously pissing off Volthoom, who tries to just catch Miss Ferris now, trying to drain her emotional love energy until getting blasted by Hal due to sort of being able to see him, and this allows Carol to escape, leaving the First Lantern with a new craving for rage emotions. Red Lantern's number 18 continues right from issue number 17 as the Reds leader Atrocitus and his recently recruited Manhunter robots have traveled to Guardian of the U's original homeworld Maltus in order to find something called the Great Heart, which just so happens to be what the little blue guys stashed their emotions in billions of years ago. A lot of possibilities on what he could do with that, but Volthoom interrupts the mission, wasting no time entering Atrocitus's mind, and the double-page spreads given to us when the First Lantern was infiltrating the main characters' psyches were awesome. Obviously, with the massacre of Sector 666 pretty much being the start to Atrocity's origin tale, that is what's focused on heavily, as Volthoom shows a reality where the MH robots never went rogue, but his homeworld of Ryut fell under a corrupted government system instead, forcing our main character here, known by his real name Atros, to begin a revolution which lasted a few years until his group overthrew the dictatorship and he became the top planetary leader. However, it didn't take long for him to go full out Idi Amin, going on to execute his own people and eventually turning on his wife, then having her killed as well. Yikes. This all then concludes with Atrocitus's only son committing regicide and patricide, killing his megalomaniac father, who's now taking in these visions with eyes wider than pancakes and is next offered the chance to truly have this life for real, maybe even having the ability to change it thanks to this knowledge, but he'd rather just avoid it altogether, electing to break free from the First Lantern's confines in rage, thus gaining himself absolutely nothing, because Volthoom simply stops anything from happening before destroying the Manhunter robots protecting the Great Heart, then steals it for his own ventures. So what does Atrocitus decide to do after all of that? Calls every single Red Lantern on his ring and tells them to hunt down Atrocitus. Alrighty then. Jack Rancor Moore gets some more page time here as well, with him having scored a date last edition with a lady named Kim after disguising his Red Lantern look, and after a day out, the two return to Kim's apartment wherein Jackie Boy tries to tell her he's been lying about something. What made her think he was gay, I do not know, but the chat is cut short when Mr. Moore's recent traveling mate Bleeze makes an appearance looking quite spider-like, which has Kim screaming in fear and bringing out the real Rancor. It appears the main Red Lantern female here may indeed be a bit jealous. Alright. Starting with plot in Green Lantern, it was all in the Dead Zone featuring Hal and Sinestro's usual sharp arguing, with Simon being thrown in, and finally getting to prove the gun he stashed during the Rise of the Third Army was useful. Sort of. Then you had Tomar Ray being quite important, giving answers to many questions for this event, and he debuted in Green Lantern number 6, 1961 by John Brome and Gil Kane. I really liked the multiple storylines happening in Green Lantern New Guardians, and aside from the slight foreshadowing to a Throne of Atlantis, it was important to see here that some characters had a slight edge on Volthoom, but were still vulnerable, and any attention Carol Ferris gets is totally fine with me. Red Lanterns easily had the best moments in this edition if you ask me, though the subplot with Bleez and Rancor was developing those two further, while the Vision's Atrocitus got put through being an insane dictator that fell from grace was a great mirror look at what he is now close to, and leading into him wanting his Reds to eliminate him was a pretty solid cliffhanger. John Stewart, meanwhile, got all the attention in Green Lantern Corps, and it was a chance to show why he should be called the rock and a hard place man. I would have liked to see Fatality more, though, since she seemed to have an interesting history to be hinted at in the past. Now, for the artwork, Szymon Kudranski's stuff is always easy to recognize, and his Dead Zone Green Lantern scenes are standouts. Then, in RL and GLC, Volthoom's memory attacks stretched in colorful-looking lightning were highlights of this entire crossover. The eclectic mix of content in both of those titles, number 18s, were honestly fantastic. My personal favorite, though, was Green Lantern New Guardians. It had excellent details and tone, along with a bit of an anime quality, which is what I really liked. Finally, for dialogue, it's clear that Hal and Carol were still a couple you wanted to just say get a room to, even without the power rings. Larfy is a greedy piece of crap no matter the reality, and Saint Walker remained altruistic sounding no matter what. In Red Lanterns, the First Lantern definitely did the most talking while just narrating across Johnny's brutally hard decisions to make, and things were pretty simple but interesting to read, no doubt. Entertaining and enjoyable, that's all you need sometimes. There was no reason or story spoken of on about how Atrocity knew about the Great Heart's location, if you were wondering about that though. As for Green Lantern, it delivered a huge information download through the script, and my one question is to Sinestro saying Hal has dragged and held him back recently. Then why the hell did you give him a ring and then try to re-recruit him in Volume 2? Anyway, that's going to be it for today's review, and if you watched until the end here, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Wrath of the First Lantern Part 3, Beginning of the End.